Let's start off with the presidential debate that happened just almost a week ago between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Their first and maybe only debate, because it seems like Donald Trump is running from it. Now, I have the debate up here. We won't be watching the entire thing. We'll just kind of be talking about a few points, as well as the reactions from it, just some criticism of both people, as well as some of the updates regarding the race following it, like Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer seemingly being very close to Trump. We'll see where that goes. Also, this is being recorded on the same day that Donald Trump he didn't get shot at, but there was an attempted assassination at his golf club where he was at, that the Secret Service, which ended with the Secret Service taking the man out, but we'll see. It's still breaking news. I'll probably cover it next week with when like more information comes out. It's like at the time of this recording, it is 45 minutes ago in which it happened. So it's still very new. So yeah, I'll definitely talk about that next week. But for now, we're just going to talk about the presidential debate. I have some notes here, and I'm just going to kind of go down them and talk about some of their points. I'll talk about Kamala Harris first, and then I'll talk about Donald Trump afterwards. Maybe I'll bring him up every now and again when I get to some of her points on here. Now, when it comes to Kamala Harris, she did a pretty good job, I would say, at least compared to Donald Trump. But she definitely did have her problems. I feel like the first big problem of hers was that she would kind of dodge questions. Like one big one that I feel like she definitely dodged the hell out of was when they asked her about like how her positions have changed on many issues like fracking, being like, oh, well, previously you supported banning fracking, but now you are all in for fracking. So what's the change? And she's like, well, I'm not going to ban fracking. And that was about it. She didn't explain why she changed her opinion on it. She just kind of like said, I support fracking, and moved on. She was pretty weak on questions about the economy. Like a lot of her answers was just like, yeah, I come from a very middle class household, yada yada. We're gonna support small businesses, but nothing about like everyday people, like the working class people. It feels like she honestly thinks the solution is just for everyone to become a small business owner. Like, but what's your positions on like everyday people who are, just trying to work? Like, how are their lives going to change? How are you going to help them out? She previously stated before that she was going to do like price gouging on like everyday material, everyday products, but she didn't even bring that up in the debate. She was really good at attacking and baiting Trump a lot. Like every single time she would like throw some bait at him to get him riled up and go on a fucking tangent, he would just straight up fall for it. Like with a Central Park 5 shit like that, especially with a Trump rally line where she was just like, you go to, actually let me pull it up.
And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion.
I don't know why they cut this up. It's already like a 2-minute video, but yeah, she goes into
and I will
his
tell
rallies.
You, one thing you will not hear.
You can tell he got very mad at that point when she was like, something you will notice is that they leave his rallies pretty early, which there is proof of that does happen.
And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there. And
like you can just tell she's very happy about that. She was like, you fucking fell for it, hook, line, and sinker, you dipshit.
Showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies.
Biggest rallies.
Politics. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. In Springfield,
oh my God,
they're eating the dogs. The people that came in,
they're eating the dogs.
Oh
my God, we'll get to that when we talk about Trump. But yeah, fucking he was crashing out. He fell for every single bait line she had. And this was like early on into the debate too. Like he just looked so bad when it came to the debate. Like in the opening like hour. Like I said, she was very good on hitting Trump. Something she wasn't extremely good on was, I don't know, like going back to her economy, policies, her policies in general. It almost feels like she was almost too afraid to be outwardly progressive. I don't know why, but she just keeps playing to the center, and then we see that with things like her stance on the border, which had a very right-wing fucking framing to it that I just hate. She did do well on her healthcare position, being like, hey, you don't have to pay as much for insulin anymore. Like, we're going to cap that. We're going to help you out with healthcare. But even then, like, it was probably her best possession so far that she was outright about. So, I don't know. I feel like she definitely could have focused more on that. Did awful on Israel, just said the same thing she always said, shit like that. She did well on Afghanistan a bit when that whole thing came up. She was like, look, 4 presidents wanted to pull out, but we finally did it. Like, they couldn't, like, they wanted to pull out, they never did, but we're the ones who did, and we had to follow his shitty positions on it. Some good, some bad. She did definitely destroy him on the abortion question, though, and that's what I have pulled up here. This is just a fucking bloodbath.
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an...
Which is a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. That doesn't happen. 3rd trimester abortions are extremely rare, and it only happens when the mother's life is at risk and when the baby is not going to survive. That's when it happens. So him trying to frame it like this, and he also says like post-birth abortions, which, like, his framing on this issue, he's had it for a while, but now he's saying it on the debate stage in front of millions of people. It just shows how fucking weird he has gotten with this thing. Like, you think, like, after a few, like, all of his framing with this, eventually he would learn how fucking weird this sounds to the regular person, but he doesn't. His whole, like, performance here and this entire his performance during this debate just felt like a extremely online right-winger. And maybe that has to do with the fact that, like, J.D. Vance is his vice president, even though in this debate he says that he doesn't even talk to J.D. Vance. Oh my god. Which is so funny. And we'll definitely get to that. But, like, he also has a Laura Loomer on his team now, apparently. And they're very close, apparently. But we'll get to that. But fucking, it just felt so, like, online, chronically online. Especially, like, when he says, they're eating the dogs in Springfield.
An excellent job. But the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates.
There is no such
radical.
thing as
The Democrats
post-birth
are
abortion.
radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices.
I mean, he was obviously going to fail when it came to this topic because, like, he's just so blatantly wrong on everything regarding it. Like, first of all, it happened because of him. It happened because of the court justices. It happened because of the Supreme Court justices that he appointed on there, helping pass it, like the overturn of it. And also his stance on it being like, everyone wanted this, like nobody wanted this. It's a very unpopular position for Roe v. Wade, abortion rights to be left to the states. It's very unpopular. Like, what are you doing? You're also just giving the Democrats fueling fire for being like, hey, you know how this was extremely unpopular? This overturning of Roe v. Wade was entirely unpopular? Well, since it's left to the states now, as long as you just, continue to vote Democrats in these states, you'll get your abortion rights. Because if you vote Republican, you're going to see oppression in one way or another.
We were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do.
But there are states that don't accept those exceptions, and that's the problem when you leave it to the states.
Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states.
No, they
where the
didn't.
people could...
It wasn't even that popular with Republicans either. Like, I believe the majority, but even then, it wasn't like a huge majority. I believe it was like 60-40, if I remember correctly. Again, it wasn't a big majority. It still was, but at the same time, it was widely popular overall to just to have it in the government level.
Could vote, and that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal.
Again, he's just giving them fire, just being like, it literally proves you wrong when you say shit like this, of being like, even red states had somewhat more liberal outcomes when it came to abortion rights. So obviously people were in favor for it. So if they're going to be in favor for it on a state level, they're more than likely going to be in favor for it on a, entire country level, in a government level.
Liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give
please
tremendous
continue
credit to
tying
those
yourself
six
to this
justices.
issue.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not
wait, no,
have
it
to
gets brought up.
abandon
I was looking for his comments on JD. I believe it comes up here. I believe this is actually where the comment comes up.
their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that.
Like, this is just
And
great
I
line of fire.
pledge to you-
It really is. Just like hitting it from an emotional front. Just being like, it doesn't matter if some states, you know, don't like support abortion across the board. there are going to be states where this shit happens and they can't. Like, they can't get an abortion even to save their life. Like, this is why you should have it at a government level instead of a state's level. And hitting this like on a front where like everyone can look at this and be like, yeah, that's obviously wrong for someone who like needs it. Unless you're a freak. Like, unless you're just a straight up freak, then you won't see it that way. But then, I mean, especially if you're Charlie Kirk, there was a Jubilee video he did recently where he debated a bunch of college students, because that's what, you know, these right-wing grifter freaks can only do. They can only debate people who are, you know, still learning a lot of the facts of the world and, you know, developing their opinion on it instead of, you know, actual grown people with facts. But there was one student who asked him the question on the abortion issue of being like, if your child, if your daughter, I think it was like, she said, if your 10-year-old daughter got R-worded and impregnated from that, would you force her to keep the baby? And he said yes.
You had a daughter and she was 10 and she got raped. And she was gonna give birth and she would, no wait, oh, and she was gonna give birth and she was gonna live. Would you want her to go through that and carry her baby?
That's awfully graphic.
It's no, but it's a real life scenario that happens to many people.
The answer is yes, the baby would be delivered.
Oh, okay, great. So that's insane.
And mind you, the question was, if your 10-year-old daughter got R-worded and impregnated from that, would you force her to keep the baby instead of getting an abortion? And he said yes. The thing is, though, is that if a 10-year-old child is forced to give birth, they're probably going to die. So what he was basically saying there is that I would sentence my child to death instead of saving her life because she got R-worded. He is a monster. But he is also not the normal person. Charlie Kirk definitely is, and he is a freak. He's a weird, small-faced freak. But so is Donald Trump. And so is a lot of people in his inner circle, apparently. Because the way he tried to do this in a very moderate, way, I feel like he definitely tried to do that. But at the same time, he was still attaching himself to the decision to move it to the states. That's what he did. And you can't do that and have a moderate position on it because people are still going to see you as the one responsible for why their rights got taken away.
When Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. The American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten
this is where the JD
everybody
fans
wants.
comes up.
Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting.
Yeah, you did something that was very unpopular. Like, a majority of people supported it. Also, going back to like the healthcare thing, just for a second, when I'm on this topic of like, something that a majority of people support, but one of these candidates isn't running with, Kamala Harris also seemingly trying to distance herself from progressive views like Medicare for all, despite the fact that it's pretty popular. I just wanted to bring up that, like, still, she definitely had some flubs. She very much, like, I feel like tried to run away from a lot of progressive views, even though they would help her out in this effect. At the end of the day, this debate only really served to show that Donald Trump is a lunatic that you shouldn't vote for, but people still probably will vote for him. The problem is, on Kamala's front, while that does help her because it makes her look way more competent for people who, like, care about whether or not, in terms of, like, competency instead of like, you know, actual policy, I don't think that's going to help her out with people who like look at her and are just like, I want to vote for you, but you need to give me something to believe in outside of you just being more competent than the other guy, which isn't a hard thing to do. When it comes to like policy shit like that, like the insulin stuff, you know, lowering the prices on that definitely would help, but she didn't put it out as a forefront. And I think that definitely would, you know, I think it helps her a bit, but I feel like she should have definitely focused more on that, being like, look, we are going to work on making sure like it's more available for you to get the shit that you need at lower prices. But instead, it was just a lot of nothing. It was just a lot of meddling, like platitude shit like that. It just felt like kind of nothingness with some good points in there, but then she would also kind of go ham on the points that didn't really work in her favor, like fucking, you know, having the most lethal fighting force or the border.
What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your desk?
Well, I won't have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and...
There you go. You just give her more fire to be like, hey, do you want us to sign Roe v. Wade into law? Make sure you vote for Democrats in the midterms. Make sure that we can fill Congress up with Democrats. That way we can pass it into law.
She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said,
I'm sorry,
we'll
where did you
we'll
spend a lot of your presidency? Oh, at the golf course that you almost got shot at today?
Different way. And he went out, got rejected again.
I mean, I don't like Joe
Court.
Biden, but that's
So
pretty funny coming from him.
Students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And
I do not talk to J.D. Vance. He is a weirdo. Literally, he's just being like, yeah, I don't fucking talk to him about my policies. Oh my fucking god. And the funny thing is that J.D. Vance got interviewed about this afterwards. Let's actually see if we can look it up. Yeah, this right here.
The other side of the ticket.
And he just had to suck off. He just had to suck Donald.
Joining us now, Senator Vance, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
God,
So
I hate him.
I want
It just
to
looks
get
so
to
weird.
one part in the debate where you came up. Donald Trump was asked if he would veto a national abortion ban. He didn't answer the question, suggested, I guess, that he wouldn't. And then it was pointed out that you, in fact, said not that long ago that he would veto a national abortion ban. Can you explain the mix-up here?
Well, I think the president's been very clear that he doesn't want a national abortion ban. I think in some ways he finds the question a little bit ridiculous because why are we asking him about legislation that's never going to actually happen and why he would veto it or not veto it when he says very explicitly that he doesn't support a national abortion ban and he wants these policies to be made by the states. But I think there's a deeper and more important issue here in this debate, which is that you had Kamala Harris effectively echoing platitude after
He's just trying to run away from the issue of Donald Trump literally just saying, like, I don't talk to him. Yeah, I don't blame him either. Like, I would not want to spend a second talking to J.D. Vance. And unfortunately, you know, he's more prominent than ever now he's VP. Also, I was bringing up this, going back to healthcare, and we might as well just talk about Trump at this point, because I already said everything I really want to say about Harris. Maybe I'll add a few things here or there, but here we have fucking Trump talking about his healthcare plan, and when I say plan, I mean plan in quotation marks, because as we see here, he does not have a plan.
It was lousy health care, always was. It's not
Talking
very
about
good today.
Obamacare.
And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it, and we're going to replace it.
We are working on things.
Remember this. I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be? Get rid of it. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not
I have concepts of a plan. You know, this reminds me of the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy. You probably know what I'm talking about when it's like before they try to save Xandar from the Kree, from Ronan.
That is not a plan.
It's barely a concept.
Like that scene from Guardians of the Galaxy, like where obviously this guy just does not have a plan at all. He did anything and everything to make himself look as bad as possible here. But yeah, let's talk about Trump a little bit more in terms of his side of the debate. A lot of shit that like people on the right have been using and to like criticize this debate are the moderators, because they did a incredibly great job at fact checking him. Like really good. They were on it, and a lot of people were just like, it's unfair, it's 3 against 1. It's just like, yeah, because Kamala wasn't really lying for a big portion of it. The only thing they could have gotten her on is her bloodbath comment, because that was kind of taken out of context with what Trump was originally saying when he said bloodbath. He was talking about like the economy and I believe like the motor industry, like the car industry, with like electric vehicles, shit like that. He was like, it's gonna be a bloodbath. But I mean, she's not wrong in saying that Trump uses excessive language, shit like that, to rally his supporters. We're fucking seeing that now with people like the Proud Boys, like groups like the Proud Boys going to Springfield. Even though we'll get to that, that will be like its own separate video. We're gonna watch like a Tyler Oliveira video where he went to Springfield and shit like that. It's just fucking gross, but still, yeah, he did terrible on abortion. Literally admits admits he does not talk to JD at all. Yeah, he said, I believe it was during the healthcare question where he even brought up like, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating your pets. Just sounding like a fucking insane person. Like, I believe the topic at hand wasn't even on immigration. He just brought it up for no reason and then started saying they're eating the dogs. And when they got fact-checked on that, being like, there's no proof that this is happening on like a wide scale, like it will only happen once. I don't believe it was even in Springfield. I believe it was in Kenton, where just not even a Haitian woman, just some black woman was having a mental health episode and just ended up killing a cat and eating it, which is obviously still gross, but they're trying to make this out like it's a normal thing when it's not. And when he got fact checked on it, he said, well, the people on the TV are telling me that. Like, the people on television are telling me that they're eating cats and dogs. It's like, you sound like such an old man. Like, literally the other guy, Biden, had to drop out because he sounded so much like an old man, and now you sound like an old man too. Why do you think people are going to vote for you on this? You just come off as like extremely online with an issue that your own VP literally just admitted that he made up.
Can you affirmatively say now that that is a rumor?
Father of Ohio boy killed in car accident with Haitian migrant calls on Vance to stop using son's death for political gain.
That has no base.
Like, even people who are apparently being fucking affected by this, even though it's made up bullshit, it just so happened that the person in the car accident was Haitian. Even the person who lost his son because of this is like, don't fucking use this to like boost your career. Like, it just so happened the person was Haitian and you're using this to fuel your hateful rhetoric.
Basis with evidence?
He's a disgusting, disgusting person.
Dana, the evidence is the first-hand account of my constituents who are telling me that this happened. And by the way, I've been trying to talk about the problems in Springfield for months, and the American media ignored it. There was a congressional hearing just last week of angel moms who lost children because Kamala Harris let criminal migrants into this country who then murdered their children. The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to,
But it wasn't just a meme,
create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because
He just admits it. He admits on TV that he creates stories. It's not just like, oh, like if I have to reiterate stories or if I have to shine more light on these stories, it's if I have to create these stories from nothing so that it can go to a mainstream platform so that everyone can have their fucking brains broken because I'm a fucking chronically online loser, then I'm gonna do it.
You guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast. You had one interview with her. You talk about pushing back against me, Dana. You didn't push back against the fact that she cast the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is why a lot of Americans can't afford food and housing.
You just said that you're
creating
creating a
about
story.
Public policy.
Sir, you just said that you're creating the story.
What's that, Dana?
You just said that this is a story that you
Yes.
created. So the eating dogs and cats.
I like that little face, like it's almost him realizing. He was like, oh shit, I just said that. I just said the quiet part out loud. When you realize you just gave the game away. Oh my god. So this guy just admitted on national television that he plans on doing scare tactics for the rest of the campaign. Like, there's no way you can look at this and be like, oh, there's no way to spin this. He just said that he's creating these stories. They also asked Trump about how he would deport millions of people because he has been saying that. He's like, oh, I'm going to deport them. And they asked him, what is that process going to look like? And he just completely dodges the question. He gets into, you know, the whole, they're using political violence against me to be like, you know, they're using the courts against me. Essentially, but he's also saying like, you know, he's like, oh, the courts are rigged against me, but I'm winning. So like, are they rigged if you're winning? He's just like, no, I'm so innocent that even though they are rigged to take me down, I'm still winning them somehow. I don't know. He also used the I'm talking line that Kamala Harris used against Mike Pence during their debate. It came off as extremely forced. Like, you could tell that was the only thing he practiced during, like, before the debates. He used the line, there are going to be, like, she wants to do trans operations on illegal immigrants, which, like, does have some basis. But it's not what he thinks it is or is trying to make it out to be. All it means is that here in this little excerpt here from ABC News, in 2015, while Harris was the Attorney General, California and the Transgender Law Center reached a historic settlement to move a transgender woman inmate to a women's correctional facility and provide her with transgender medical care that had been deemed medically necessary by several medical and mental health experts, according to the settlement agreement. Like, that's it. It's just like, yeah, even prisoners should be allowed for transgender medical care. Like, that's it. But he's trying to spin that into being like they're trying to trans the illegal immigrants. I don't know why he thought that was a good line. Like, okay, technically it's true. They can do that for, you know, people who are illegal immigrants who go to prison can get transgender operations, but they're not being forced on them. When they asked him about January 6th, he complained that he was like, people only died on the January 6th side. Nobody died on their side. You know, their side being Congress people and police officers. He was complaining about that. He said that more people got prosecuted than BLM or the Palestine protest, even though more people were prosecuted during that. They also asked him about how he admitted to lying. Well, he didn't admit to lying, but he said in an interview, he was like, oh, they beat us by a hair or something like that. But then they were like, well, okay, you've been saying for all this time that you didn't lose the election, but then you admit to losing the election. But then he answers them by saying, no, I didn't lose. He tried to like pass the comment off that he did during that interview as sarcastic, but I saw it. It didn't really feel like it was that sarcastic. But whatever. He brought up Viktor Orban. As if people give a fuck about that. Being like, Viktor Orban loves me. You know, the world leaders, they respected me. They respected my power. Like Viktor Orban. Of Hungary, I believe? Yeah, Hungary. Like, who gives a fuck about Viktor Orban, dude? What are you talking about? When they asked him about Ukraine and Israel, at least on the Ukraine front, he was like, I'm gonna stop the war. But he never gave a plan as to how he's gonna do that. He also lied about Harris meeting Putin, even though there's no evidence to support that. Even her herself was like, yeah, I never met the guy. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. But yeah, like, he's been saying all these years since Russia invaded Ukraine that he was like, if I was there, it would never have happened. But when they ask him, well, if you go back into office, how will you stop it? Or how would you have stopped it? He doesn't give an answer. Like, you had all this time to think of a plan, even if it was a bullshit plan, like just to think of a plan. And he has nothing. He was very weird regarding Kamala Harris's race. Like, back a couple months ago, he was at, like, or I think it was a month ago at this point, he was at a black journalist convention or conference where he was like, you know, she said she was black, but now she's not. Because Kamala Harris is biracial. She's like Indian and, black. But he was like, oh, is she Indian? Is she black? I can't tell. She can't pick. Just being extremely fucking weird on that. Like, that's going to help him. During his closing statement, Kamala Harris went first with her closing statement, where she did an alright job at, explaining why people should vote for her. His closing statement was entirely focused on her. Like, his closing statement had no focus on him and why people should vote for him. It was just like, she sucks. She's the worst. And I feel like this performance would probably have came off a bit better if he still had his 2016 persona of him, where he was an outsider who, obviously didn't know much because he had no, real experience in the game. But now that he has been president, and it's been 4 years since his presidency, the fact that he just, does not seem to be competent at all or have a real plan for anything, I think it's going to definitely lose some people who might have been on the fence about him, like Republicans. I think those people are gone. I don't think they're going to vote for him at the end of the day. But at the same time, I don't think neither are people who were on the fence about Kamala. I don't think they're going to, vote for Kamala anyways. Because I don't think, and outside of her showing that she's more competent than Donald Trump, she didn't give them anything to believe in regards to her, in my opinion. But following this debate, right-wingers were just losing their shit. With Ben Shapiro literally saying that this debate didn't matter. This debate won't matter. It was just eliminated as an inflection point. The American people still know nothing about Kamala Harris's positions. Donald Trump is still Donald Trump, and the legacy media are still a giant flaming dog turd. Very strong language coming from Ben. A flaming dog turd. Just spoke with Lindsey Graham in the spin room. He said the debate team should be fired and Trump was unprepared. Disaster. Yeah, it was a disaster. Trump was also in the spin room just trying to spin this into a victory for him, but it just came off as loser shit. But going back to Kamala Harris, before this debate, she did finally put her policies, she finally gave an update to her issues page. It's really just a carbon copy of Joe Biden's. It really is. And if you want any more proof of this, there's this TikTok right here that we're going to watch.
So the Harris campaign finally put up an issues on their website. Finally. And something very funny happened. So this is the issues page, and it's called A New Way Forward. The problem is, they copied Biden's old issues page. Twitter user Gay Narcan, which as a quick aside is a fantastic username, noticed that the link, when pulled in metadata, still showed Joe Biden stuff. Here's one of those pictures. You can see it says, join our campaign to re-elect Joe Biden. So some services like Discord you see here are going to pull in the website data to give you a quick preview of what that link is. It even shows up on Google. It says re-elect Joe Biden today at the Kamala Harris website. Oops. They went through the rest of the website and no other page on the site did that. So literally they made the issues page by just copy and pasting Joe's. I think they went and changed the policies and stuff, obviously, but the metadata was that way. They did finally go and fix it, and I just checked, and as of this morning, Google has re-indexed it so it doesn't show up like that anymore, but it is very funny that A New Way Forward was literally a plagiarized page. Rest of the issue page, by the way.
Yep, yeah, that was about it. It's just like, they're really not doing great when it comes to like shit like this. They really don't. And they really need to fix shit like that. After this debate, Taylor Swift also endorsed Kamala Harris in a way that I just think is very funny, but we'll get to this. Obviously, this is a play on the childish cat lady comment that JD Vance made, but here it is. Like many of you, I watched the debate tonight. If you haven't already, now is a great time to do your research on the issues at hand and the stances these candidates take on the topics that matter to you the most. As a voter, I make sure to watch and read everything I can about their proposed policies and plans for the country. I bet you do. Recently, I was made aware that AI of me falsely endorsing Donald Trump's presidential run was posted to his site. It really conjured up my fears around AI and the dangers of spreading misinformation. It brought me to the conclusion I need to be very transparent about my actual plans for this election as a voter. The simplest way to combat misinformation is with the truth. She does bring up Tim Walz, which is great, because Tim Walz is a great guy. But like, she definitely has not done her research. Also, the fact that she's willing to make a comment about this but hasn't said anything about Gaza, I don't know how I feel about that. But don't worry, even with my problems with this, I definitely have more of a problem with how some right-wingers have decided to talk about this issue, like Dave Rubin. Oh yeah, Elon Musk also comes up. Elon Musk also makes a comment about this. Fine, Taylor, you win. I'll give you a child and guard your cats for the rest of my life. Just completely disgusting. Like, imagine going up to a random woman and being like, I'm going to give you a child. Imagine going up to a coworker and saying that. You would be fired immediately. And here we have the CEO of a bunch of companies blatantly saying this to a random woman. Like, it's just completely disgusting. And what Dave Rubin says next is so fucking disgusting too.
And he wrote this: find Taylor child I like. Mocking, he's exposing the ridiculousness, right? It's like, Taylor Swift, you are a young, pretty girl. Do you know what the gang members from Venezuela do to young, pretty girls? It ain't pretty.
Like, that just sounds like an R-word threat. It really does. Also, spreading the fake story about the Venezuelan gangs. Just being like, it's completely fucking disgusting. Just being like, oh yeah, you support this, but they would R-word you. It's just so fucking gross when, like, what Elon said definitely, like, feels like an R-word threat too. It's just completely fucking gross. But yeah, we have this comment, just completely disgusting. But going back to Trump, he now has seemingly been hanging out with Laura Loomer, who is just a straight up white nationalist, which she herself, like, will say. Like, she's like, yeah, I'm a white nationalist. Yeah, they've been hanging out apparently. There is no way these two aren't in love. I'm just saying it right now. Apparently, Laura and Marjorie Taylor Greene have also been getting into a spat. Marjorie Taylor Greene is just like, look, Trump only has one room for an ugly woman in his life. and it's me. But no, Laura Loomer is coming to replace her. And if you want even more proof of Trump's love for Laura Loomer, we have a clip here where he talks about her. But this has also been like very controversial for even like pro-Trump Republicans, or just like she shouldn't be there. Like it's entirely a bad look. Like I don't know why they're doing this.
Encouraged Trump to push the conspiracy theories he's now spouting on the campaign trail. One thing is certain, Trump is kind of enamored with Loomer right now.
He is.
It's great to have you, and you've been really very special. You work hard, and you are a very opinionated lady. I have to tell you that, and in my opinion, I like that.
Well, I appreciate that.
He's like, I like how opinionated you are. You're a strong woman.
Support, and you've been terrific, and everybody appreciates you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to sit with you today. It's a pleasure. You're the best. I love you.
It's kind of sweet in its own weird way. Now, all this came to a head today at Trump's latest press availability,
oh my God.
where, after a few days of people asking, like, what the hell is going on here, he was asked point blank by reporters about his closeness to...
And this is not just like a one-off. She was on the plane with him when he went to the debate. Like, she got off the plane with him. Like, there's obviously something there.
Loomer and her nutty extremism.
What would you say to your Republican colleagues or your allies who are concerned about your close relationship with Laura Loomer?
Well, I don't know what they would say. Laura's been a supporter of mine, just like a lot of people are supporting.
Yeah, and under the desk supporter. She's been supporting me so much. I've been so relieved.
And she's been a supporter of mine. She speaks very positively of the campaign. I'm not sure why you asked that question, but Laura is a supporter. I don't control Laura.
I don't control her. She's a free spirit. Also being like, I don't know why you would ask that question, because it's someone who is an out and about white nationalist, like white supremacist. Like, what are you talking about?
Positively of the campaign. I'm not sure why you asked that question, but Laura is a supporter. I don't control Laura. Laura has to say what she wants. She's a free spirit. Well, I don't know. I mean, look, I can't...
She's a free spirit. I can't control her. I've tried. She's a fiery one. She starts a fire in my loins. Oh, my God. Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, he just looked at that Botox-ridden face and was just like, I need it.
Tell Laura what to do. Laura's a supporter. I have a lot of supporters, but I don't know what exactly you're referring to.
Mr. President.
That's okay.
Mr. President.
Yeah, please.
Mr. President.
I just don't know. Laura's a supporter. I don't know.
But
She is a strong person. She's got strong opinions, and I don't know what she said, but that's not up to me. She's a supporter.
Let's see, she's a free spirit. Can't...
She's a free spirit. I couldn't even contain her if I tried. She's a wild one. I can't get over this. Like, this is someone who has been banned from everything. By the way, like, fuck, almost everything you can imagine. She was banned from Twitter at one point in time, and I believe even like sat outside of the Twitter building in hopes of getting unbanned, which she eventually did get unbanned when Elon Musk bought the platform. So there you have it. But I believe she like banned from Twitter, not Twitter, Instagram, Uber, Lyft, shit like that. Like, they don't like her. Nobody likes her. I believe she's even said herself that she's like extremely like a proud Islamophobe. Like, she is nuts. She's nuts. When Marjorie, the Jews have a space laser green, Marjorie Titan Green is literally going out of her way to be like, why is she here? Why is she around? Like why would you have her around? You know you're doing something wrong. Because, like, Marjorie Titan Green is literally what Laura Loomer is, but she's just like a version that Republicans kind of allow to be around. Like, they allow her to be around, but they don't like her either. I can't imagine that they do. I don't know. But like Laura is essentially what she is, but just out and about. Like she's not afraid to hide it. She's still a fucking demon. Tim Pool literally had to end an episode of his show because Laura Loomer said that they should like kill Democrats. Just out and about. She's not afraid to voice her opinion. And Tim Pool is an idiot for thinking that she wouldn't have done that. But fucking hell, just like if you think his performance couldn't get worse, him literally siding with Laura Loomer, who has like no contingency, like the people voting for Trump probably already like Laura Loomer. At least like the Laura Loomer fans are already gonna vote for him. So like there's nothing you gain from being with her outside of just driving people away because of how blatant and weird she is. But I don't know. Again, this whole thing's been a mess. Kamala Harris, again, while not doing great, has been looking somewhat competent, but she still has a long way to go. Like, this is still a very close race, even though it shouldn't be. But yeah, that's all I had to say about the matter.